Let's talk about what it means to be a patriot. Is it about being loyal to your country no matter what? Or is it about being loyal to the truth, even when it's uncomfortable? Today, we're diving into two totally different and often conflicting ideas of patriotism, and they both revolve around one thing: state secrets. So let's really boil it down to this. Who's the real patriot here? Is it the soldier who carries a secret to their grave to protect the nation? Or is it the person who reveals that exact same secret to protect the public? As you're about to see, the answer is, well, it's almost never black and white. You basically have two paths that emerge from this. On one side, you have the secret keeper. They follow orders, they keep their mouth shut, and for that, they're often called heroes. But on the other side, you have the secret revealer. They break an oath, they leak information, and they're often branded as traitors. Let's start by looking at the incredible sacrifice of the secret keeper. We're going to start with a group of undisputed American heroes, the Navajo code talkers from World War II. Their code, which was based on their native language, was literally unbreakable. It was a huge reason the Allies won in the Pacific. But the heroism we celebrate came at a hidden and just immense personal cost. And to understand that cost, you have to get this concept of moral injury. See, in Dene culture, after a battle, warriors have to go through a cleansing ceremony. It's essential for spiritually healing from the horrors of war. But their whole mission was top secret, so they were forbidden from doing this. The government's need for silence created this deep spiritual wound that they just had to carry. And we're not talking about a few months of secrecy here. We're talking about 23 years. For over 2 decades, they were bound by this oath, and they were threatened with treason if they ever spoke a word. Can you imagine carrying the trauma of battle, but not being able to tell your wife, your parents, or even a doctor? They were forced to be strangers in their own communities. And just look at how long they had to wait to even be recognized. The war ends in 1945, but the code isn't declassified until 1968. It's not until 2001, a mind-boggling 56 years later, that they get congressional gold medals. For so many of them, that justice came way, way too late. So on top of that psychological burden, there was a devastating economic one. The post-war GI Bill was what built the American middle class. It offered college tuition, home loans, but you needed a service record that showed what you did. Well, the code talkers' records were classified. Their incredible specialized skills were listed as basic infantry or even janitor. So they were completely locked out of the prosperity they fought to create. Okay, so that's the story of the secret keeper, the profound cost of staying silent. Now let's flip the coin and look at our second archetype, the secret revealer, because they show us the immense personal cost of speaking out.
You've probably heard these names: Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning. Snowden was an NSA contractor who showed the world that governments were secretly collecting insane amounts of data, your emails, your phone calls, your location, on millions of regular people. And Chelsea Manning, a U.S. Army analyst, released what became known as the war logs. They painted a much grittier, much more tragic picture of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, including civilian deaths that just didn't line up with the official story. And right here, you get to the heart of the whole debate. It's this fundamental clash of ideas. The government says, hey, we need secrecy for national security, to protect you from threats. But the whistleblowers say, wait a minute, in a democracy, the people have a right to know what the government is doing in their name, to protect them from that same government overreaching. And this tension, it's nothing new. This tug of war between state secrecy and the public's right to know, it's not new. Not by a long shot. It has deep roots, especially if you look back at the paranoia of the Cold War. The government has always tried to control its most sensitive information, sometimes with extreme measures. Just think back to the 1950s, during the Red Scare. The whole atmosphere was thick with suspicion. This fear of enemies from within created a culture where secrecy was everything, and leaking information was seen as the absolute worst kind of betrayal, one that came with the ultimate price. And if you want a perfect, chilling example, look no further than Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. They were executed in 1953 for passing atomic secrets to the Soviets. Their execution sent a message that has been echoing for decades. The state will go to any length to protect its secrets. It set this really stark precedent for how whistleblowers would be treated from then on. So the fear might have been the same, but the technology? Oh, the technology changed everything. Back in the 50s, surveillance was physical and targeted. An FBI agent listening in on a specific phone line. But what Snowden revealed was a whole new ballgame. Mass, automated collection of digital data on a global scale. We're not just talking about who you call, but where you are, what you search for, what you buy. The net widened from catching one fish to catching the entire ocean. So, after all that, we're back where we started. We've seen the incredible sacrifice it takes to keep a secret and the severe punishment for revealing one. So, where does true loyalty actually lie? Is it with the state that demands you stay quiet, or with the truth that the public might need to hear? Look, we all agree the Navajo Code talkers are patriots, heroes, right? But their story forces us to ask a really tough question. The silence that the state demanded of them caused them profound harm. So, does that mean patriotism can sometimes be at odds with what is actually right? Is silence always the noble path? When you put these two types of people side by side, the difference is just, wow. One is motivated by duty to the nation, the other by loyalty to the truth. One keeps a secret, one reveals it. The state calls one a hero and the other a traitor. But notice the one thing they have in common: the personal cost. Both paths lead to some form of deep, personal suffering, whether it's a moral wound or actual exile and prison. So, what's the bottom line here? It's that patriotism is, well, it's complicated. There's no simple rulebook. It really seems to depend on the context, on the secret itself, and on the consequences. What one generation calls treason, another might just call heroism. That line is always shifting. And that leaves us with the final and maybe most important question. In a democracy, who gets to decide? Who has the power to draw that line between a secret that truly protects a nation and a secret that becomes a threat to the very people it's supposed to serve? That's the complex, messy territory we all have to figure out.